about Aston Villa have been true this season. Number one, we have an absolutely stacked midfield of talent. And number two, our defence has been very, very leaky. So today I've come up with 4 possible solutions, a change in formation 4 times over. Let me know what you think down in the comments below about which one is your favourite. And as always, if you are enjoying the content, leave a like, subscribe for more. Let's have a look at some possible formations, including a couple where we're going 5 at the back. This is how we generally line up. Nothing that we're not used to. We're used to this 4-4-2 lineup, which 4-4-2 defensively, 4-2-3-1 offensively, which I'll put up on the screen as well, and the usual suspects in every position, as you can see on the screen. Martinez, Digne, Powell, Konsa and Cash making up our back 5 unit. Jacob Ramsey on the left-hand side of midfield, with John McGinn being shuffled over to the right, and then Onana and Tielemans in the middle with Watkins and Rodgers up front. That was the go-to formation and the go-to lineup before injury did strike the team. We have had to play a little bit with that, but we've been doing that for 2 to 3 years, and every so often Emery does switch it up, switch the personnel, switch the formation, and switch the style of play. Now this season, like I said, we've been leaky at the back, and we do have so many midfield talents that we can't just all fit into the same lineup, and that includes a certain Boubacar Kamara who is returning. So let's have a look at 4 formations that I think could help us out. And kicking it off with number 1, and we have gone strong to start off here, as you can see on the screen, and it is a complete switch up to a back 5. Martinez, Digne keep their place in the back unit, shall we say. Digne taking up more of a left wing back role, and he has been one of our main creative talents going forward this season. At right back is our first change, Jadon Philogene, who has done nothing but impress me, especially in that Bayern Munich game. I know he got sent off against Fulham. We all know that was a terribly weak sending off. It should never have been a red card. But against Bayern Munich, he locked up some of the best wingers that Europe has to offer. And I think he's also very, very good offensively. I think as a right wing back, he could really flourish in a back 5. Konsa and Pau Torres obviously keep their roles in the back 5 as well. Konsa being the only right-footed player in this back 5, in terms of like the centre-backs at least, goes on the right-hand side of that back 5. Pau Torres in the middle, because I think he's probably the best on the ball, and it doesn't matter that he is left-footed. And then Tyrone Mings is going to add some aerial presence to the back unit, and he is going to come in as our left centre back. Moving into midfield, it allows us to go for a 3 in midfield, with Tielemans and McGinn being allowed creative licence to go forward due to the extra protection that we have with the 5 at the back, and Onana playing the sitting midfield role, and then obviously Watkins and Rodgers, our 2 attackers. Now, how would this work? Obviously, in possession, we're going to be very, very blocky, almost like a 3-5-2 in this sense here, probably with Rodgers coming back and Watkins being the one that is left upfield. Probably even there's a chance that Philogene and Digne will tick in. We know that we defend very, very narrow, so it goes into sort of like that, either a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2 defensively. And attackingly, this is where this formation might be able to flourish. Obviously Watkins and then Rodgers operating probably just in behind him. Onana is going to be the main sitting midfielder, but it allows Tielemans and McGinn to operate in these slightly further forward spots, with Digne, if I can get him here, and Jadon Philogene providing that width into the box. Mings can float out a little bit wider with Konsa there, and then Onana just sits in and around Pau Torres in the middle. Let's go on to number 2. So number 2 is going on a 4-3-3 formation. We actually have 2 4-3-3 formations in this little video. Now, Martinez, Maatsen, Powell, Konsa and Cash, and you'll see why I've done that, because this formation does transform quite a lot in possession as well. Make up the back 5. Kamara comes in with Tielemans and Onana keeping their slots as the central midfielders. Bailey goes out wide with Rodgers, and then Watkins is obviously the focal point up front. Now, where this formation changes is defensively, we can almost revert back to our 4-4-2 in a sense, with Rodgers and Watkins staying more up front, Bailey dropping back, Tielemans operating in a bit more of a left midfield role defensively, that is, and then Watkins and Rodgers there. So you can almost default back into how Aston Villa have been defending anyway with this formation. There are obviously some tweaks and changes that you can make to that, but then if we go into the offensive setup for this formation and where the likes of a certain Kamara really do help us out is Maatsen has played in those midfield roles for Dortmund. He was very good at inverting in, like we see modern fullbacks do all the time. Kamara is obviously going to sit, drop and play in the middle of that back three of Pau, Konsa and then Kamara as well. And then we know Matty Cash likes to get forward as well, so he can get forward and then Rodgers can tuck in as we show here. There we go, and Bailey can even tuck in just behind there. Tielemans can be afforded a little bit of freedom there, or even Maatsen himself can push forward down that left hand side. We know he has an array of attacking abilities, so Maatsen can almost play those two roles, and if he doesn't want to go, that's fine. Maybe Rodgers can float out there and Bailey and Watkins can be our two strikers. We've seen Bailey play that last season with Cash pushing a little bit more forward, and it almost creates this kind of like 3-3-4 kind of formation there, with Maatsen sitting in front of the back three, as it were, and then Onana and Tielemans being the two there, with probably Tielemans a little bit more freedom almost to even go there, and then those two can work in a double pivot, and then you have the 3-2-5, which is something that's pretty much incorporated by most Premier League teams now, especially in games where you're dominating possession. It allows us to have those 5 attackers. Maybe Cash is a little bit of a weak point there. That's fine though, and then the 2 pivots, and then it's quite easy on transition really in defence. Maatsen can drop back in, and if we really need to, defend and transition quickly, Konsa just floats out to the right hand side of defence. That back 5 works. I think Kamara's perfectly capable of filling in as a back 2, as it were, as a centre back, and Onana sits there, and then that gives everyone else time to get back. Next up, and this is one that allows Watkins and Duran to play up front together. Who doesn't want that? If you're a Villa fan and you don't want that, come on, you know you want it. Martinez makes up the defensive unit with Pau, Konsa and Boubacar Kamara, retrained on his time off, possibly, we don't know what's been going on behind the scenes, and tactically retrained by the genius that is Unai Emery to play in that role. Maatsen and Cash again are our wing back options there, but that is interchangeable again with the likes of Jadon Philogene and the likes of Luca Digne. Tielemans and Onana in the middle, Rodgers then in just behind Duran and Watkins. I mean, what a front three that is. And again, defensively, you already know the score. We defend compactly with Konsa, Pau and Kamara defending that 18-yard box with their lives. Cash and Maatsen obviously tuck in there with the likes of, I don't know why I've put an arrow on him, but Tielemans and Onana. Gonna have to just rotate through this, guys, please bear with me. Tucking in just there, and even Rodgers and Duran, who likes to get back on defence, and we can defend quite compactly in that 5-4-1 formation. And then again, attackingly, I mean, look at this for an option in attack. You have Rodgers, you have Duran, and you have Watkins up front. Onana probably playing the main pivot role, maybe with a certain Ian Maatsen again, or obviously Maatsen up front. You have Tielemans, who can almost join them in like a three, it's like a 2-2-2, and then Cash providing some width there as well. Like I say, you can even have Maatsen providing some width there, and you're almost in like a 3-1-6 kind of formation. Kamara obviously could push up as well if we just want to leave 2 in defence, which Villa do. I have seen Villa do that this season, and you can just leave Kamara and Onana operating as those pivots. Maybe Maatsen and Cash are a little bit more conservative if that is going to happen, but the offensive options are through the goddamn roof. But finally, everyone does it. I'm guilty, and so is half of the Premier League, to be honest, half of world football, in just copying whatever Pep Guardiola's doing. I think everyone just copies him. And Pep Guardiola's thing at the moment is a 4-3-3 with 4 centre-backs, pretty much, and that is what I've gone for here. Our back unit is made up of Martinez, Konsa, Carlos, Pau and Mings, 4 centre-backs by trade, but again, Konsa and Mings can play in those full-back roles. Onana, Tielemans and then Jacob Ramsey, who will factor in a little bit later, make up the midfield 3 with Rodgers, Watkins and Bailey up front. Now, where this formation could come into its own is, again, in that attacking sense. Watkins and Rodgers will tuck in, but these two will probably be switched from the off. That's just a little mistake by me, sorry. And then Bailey and Ramsey will probably push up wider left, allowing these two to slightly push up. Mings and Konsa have slightly more freedom in this formation, and then Carlos and Pau as well makes a 4-2-4 when we are attacking. And this is something that we have seen Villa implement this season as well. And if Tielemans wants to go, that's absolutely fine, because Onana and 4 centre-backs should be more than enough to deal with any Premier League offence, especially when you look at the calibre of player that you have there as well. It's an interesting one. Let me know what you think down below. There you have it, 4 formations that Villa could implement to 1, fit in our plethora of midfield options, and 2, possibly solidify our defensive issues. Obviously, there's tweaks that can be made to each one in terms of personnel and where players would go in an attacking and defensive sense, but I want to hear from you guys down below. So leave a comment, I'll reply to all of them, and I'll see you guys soon. Up the Villa.